The stars were quiet above the alien world. The planet was covered with tall black stone towers, each rising from the red soil like broken teeth. Inside one of these towers, cages stood in a long row. The cages were small, made of strange metal that glowed faintly, and inside them sat human children. The children had been taken from a distant colony ship, captured when alien raiders swept down without warning. They were young, no older than 10 years, and their eyes were wide with fear. They spoke in soft voices to each other, trying to stay brave, but the walls around them were cold and unfriendly. The alien captors moved through the hall. They were tall and gray, with sharp ridges along their heads. Their voices were rough and deep, echoing in the chamber. They laughed as they looked at the cages. For them, this was a prize. They had taken trophies before beasts, rare crystals, even machines, but never human children. To the aliens, humans were still a mystery. They had fought human fleets before, and sometimes they had lost, sometimes they had won. But in their arrogance, they believed they had found the one weakness of the human race. If they could cage their young, they believed, humans would bow. One alien leader, named Var, stood in front of the cages with his hands behind his back. His eyes narrowed as he looked at the children. "They look so small," he said. "So fragile. The galaxy fears them, yet look how weak they are. They do not roar, they do not fight, they only sit and cry." Another alien, smaller in size, gave a laugh. "The fear of humans is only a story. Old tales made larger by cowards. These little ones will remind all who rules the stars now." The children huddled together. One boy, no older than 8, held the hand of a younger girl. His face was pale, but his eyes were steady. "They will come for us," he whispered. His voice shook, but there was belief in his words. "My people will come." The girl nodded, though she was afraid. Her small fingers gripped his hand tightly. None of them truly understood how far they had been taken, but all of them believed that humans never left their own behind. The aliens ignored their whispers. They carried on with their boasting. They spoke of showing the captured children to other worlds as a warning, as proof of their strength. They did not notice how some of their own soldiers shifted uneasily at the thought. Even among the aliens, the legend was known. The legend of human fury when their young were threatened. In distant corners of the galaxy, stories had long been told. Empires had risen and fallen, battles had been fought and remembered, but always there was one warning shared in hushed voices. Do not harm human children. Do not cage them. Do not take them away. The warning was not born from kindness but from fear, for the galaxy had seen what followed when such acts were done. But Var and his followers dismissed these tales. They believed humans had grown soft. They believed the age of human strength had passed. With every laugh and every mocking word, they sank deeper into their own pride. The night grew long, and the tower lights burned cold. The children tried to rest in their cages, though sleep was broken and restless. Some dreamed of their parents' faces, others of the warm lights of home. Every sound in the dark made them jump, yet in their hearts, a small spark of hope still lived. Far above the tower, ships drifted across the stars. The aliens did not know that their act had already sent ripples across the galaxy. Signals moved faster than light, whispers spread from one race to another. The news of caged human children was carried from world to world. Some laughed as the captors did. Others grew silent, remembering the old stories. A merchant on a distant station dropped his cup when he heard the rumor. A soldier from another empire stiffened with fear. A council of wise elders closed their eyes, knowing what must come next. The galaxy was vast, full of countless races, but it was also small when it came to memory. And memory told them this truth: the captors had made a mistake. In the tower, Var looked once more at the cages. "They will make fine symbols," he said with pride. "The galaxy will see the weakness of humans. We will show them that their time is over." But as he spoke, the children's eyes burned with quiet fire. They did not roar, they did not fight, yet in their silence, something stronger was waiting. The stars outside the tower remained calm, but calm never lasted long when humans were involved. Far across the stars, on the blue and green home of Earth, a station floated high above the planet. It was a ring-shaped fortress of metal, filled with scanners, antennas, and watchful eyes. Every second, the station listened to the galaxy, catching signals both strong and faint. Most of the signals were noise, simple chatter, or the hum of distant ships. But then came one that was different. It was weak, broken, and filled with static. Yet beneath the noise was the sound of young voices. Human voices. The signal carried fear, but also courage. It was the cry of the children taken from the colony ship. A young officer on the station froze as she heard it. She turned to her commander with wide eyes. "Sir, it's human. It is from the missing children. The signal is real." The commander, a steady man with gray hair, leaned forward. He listened carefully, his face growing hard. He pressed his hand against the console, then spoke in a calm but firm voice. "Trace it. Find where it leads. No delay." Technicians worked quickly. Their screens glowed as numbers shifted and maps unfolded. The signal came from deep in alien space, a place controlled by the warlike gray-skinned raiders. It was far, dangerous, and filled with hostile fleets. But the signal was clear enough to follow. News spread quickly to Earth's leaders. A council was gathered, made of admirals, generals, and advisors. The room was silent as the broken voices of the children played over the speakers. Every leader sat with straight backs, their hands folded, but their eyes burned with fire. One of the admirals spoke first. His voice was low but strong. "We cannot ignore this. Our children are in chains." Another leader, older and wiser, nodded slowly. "The galaxy watches us. If we allow this insult, if we leave our young behind, then the legend of humanity will die. But if we rise now, if we bring them back, then the legend will live stronger than ever." There was no debate after that. Every leader in the chamber knew the truth. The rescue was not only about saving the young. It was about showing the galaxy what it meant to be human. Orders were given. Fleets were prepared. Ships were fueled and armed. Pilots checked their engines, soldiers readied their armor, and medics prepared to care for the rescued children. Every part of the human machine moved with a single purpose. Meanwhile, whispers of the signal spread across human space. Families spoke of it in their homes, workers in the cities raised their heads when they heard the news, and children on Earth looked at the stars with shining eyes. They all knew what was happening. Humanity was gathering its strength. Humanity was coming. On one of the great carriers, a commander stood before his crew. His voice carried through the halls of the ship. "We do not fly for conquest. We do not fly for riches. We fly for our children. And there is no force in this galaxy that can stop us when we fly for them." The crew roared with agreement, their voices filling the steel halls. The ship's engines glowed bright, ready to cross the stars. While humans prepared, the galaxy stirred. Other races had already heard the rumor. Now they heard the truth. The signal was confirmed. Human children were in cages. Fear spread like wildfire. Merchants in distant markets grew silent, recalling old tales. Soldiers from other empires whispered among themselves. Councils of alien rulers gathered in fear. They knew what was coming. Not a quiet plea, not a gentle demand, but the storm of humanity rising. Some alien races pitted the captors. Others were glad, for they had long feared the gray-skinned raiders. But all agreed on one thing. Doom was on its way. Back on the human carrier, the commander stood at the window of his bridge. The stars stretched before him, endless and dark. Somewhere out there, beyond hundreds of light years, children waited in cages. His hand tightened into a fist. He remembered the words taught long ago in the academy, "A nation is strong, but a people are unbroken when they guard their young." He turned to his officers and gave the final order. "Set course. Full speed. We bring them home." Engines roared. One by one, the human fleet left their docks, rising into the night sky. Their ships were not beautiful like those of other races. They were sharp, heavy, and made for war. But to the eyes of every human who watched from the ground, they were glorious. The earth grew smaller behind them, but their purpose grew larger. The signal still whispered in their ears, the voices of the children carried across the void. It was more than a call for help. It was a fire, and the fire burned in every human heart. The fleet vanished into the dark sea of stars. The rescue had begun. The galaxy was wide, filled with countless stars and worlds, but news moved faster than ships. From station to station, from market to market, the story spread. Human children were taken, locked in cages on a distant alien world. Some laughed at the tale, thinking it was only a rumor. Others grew quiet, for they remembered the warnings from history. On the planet Ja'ur, a council of merchants gathered in a round chamber. They were not warriors, only traders, but even their hands shook when the news reached them. One merchant spoke with a trembling voice. "If the story is true, if humans prepare to march, then the stars will not be safe. We must close our routes." Another merchant, older, placed his hand on the table. "You speak with fear, but fear is wise. Do you not recall the siege of Tal Rose? An empire thought it could take human colonists as slaves. Within 2 years, that empire was gone. Not broken, not weakened, but erased from every map." The chamber fell silent. None argued after that. Far away, in the halls of a warrior race, soldiers sat in armor as their leader paced before them. His face was scarred, his eyes hard. He lifted a blade high above his head. "Do you hear it?" he shouted. "The humans are moving. Their ships have left Earth. The raiders who caged their young believe themselves strong, but they have already signed their own death. The storm is coming." The soldiers struck their armor with fists, making the chamber thunder. They were not cheering for the captors. They were cheering for the humans, for even these warriors respected strength and fury. Not every race welcomed the thought. In the Council of the Orcs, a species known for cunning politics, fear filled the air. One of the counselors leaned close to his fellows. "We must tread carefully. If humans unleash their fleets, borders will shake. Trade will suffer. Worlds will burn, even if they are not ours. Perhaps it is best to send warnings to the captors before the storm breaks." But another counselor only shook his head. "It is too late. When the first cage was built, their fate was sealed. Nothing can stop the wrath of humans now. Meanwhile, on the captured world, some of the raiders began to feel uneasy. They stood guard over the cages of the children, yet their eyes shifted often toward the sky. Whispers reached even their ears. One soldier muttered to another, "What if the stories are true? What if humans do not stop?" The other growled, "They are only children. Weak creatures. The galaxy has exaggerated the humans for too long. They are not gods." But the first soldier did not reply. In his mind, he remembered old veterans who once told of battles lost against humans. Those veterans spoke of a fire that no weapon could put out, a fury that no fear could silence. He did not laugh at the stories anymore. Back among human space, the fleets gathered speed. Hundreds of ships cut through the dark, their engines burning bright. Each vessel carried men and women ready for duty. None were there for glory, none for riches. They were there for one reason alone, to bring the children back. In the mess hall of one ship, soldiers sat together, eating in silence. Finally, one of them lifted his head and said, "The galaxy whispers. They say we are feared." Another soldier smiled faintly. "Good. Let them whisper. Let them tremble. We are feared not because we are cruel, but because we never forget who we fight for." Their words carried strength, and the silence that followed was not heavy but steady. Across neutral stations, alien travelers listened to the chatter of humans moving. A captain from another race leaned close to his crew. "Do not cross their path. Do not anger them. Mark this well. The humans are coming, and no fleet can stand against them when their children are in chains." The galaxy began to change. Ships rerouted, trade slowed, and whole sectors grew tense. It was not war yet, but the shadow of war stretched across the stars. The captors of the children had thought their act would bring them glory. Instead, it brought only fear to the rest of the galaxy. In their tall black towers, the raiders celebrated their prize, blind to the growing storm. But beyond their walls, across worlds and stars, countless voices repeated the same thought. The raiders had not just captured children. They had awakened the humans. And when humans awakened for their young, the galaxy remembered what followed. Doom was not far behind. The red world of the raiders turned slowly under a quiet sky. Its towers rose like black spears, and its cities burned with the light of industry. The raiders walked proudly through their streets, their armor polished, their voices loud. They believed themselves safe, untouched, untouchable. Inside the tallest tower, the alien leader Var stood before a gathering of his warriors. He spoke with pride, his chest raised high. "The humans have grown soft. The galaxy trembles at their shadow, but they will do nothing. We hold their children, and they have no power to strike us here. Let every world see that we are the true masters of the stars." His soldiers roared in approval. Their weapons clashed against their armor, and their voices echoed through the halls. Yet behind the noise, some eyes shifted with unease. The whispers of the galaxy had reached even here. Still, none dared speak their doubts in front of their leader. Far above the planet, space was calm. The stars shone, cold and distant. Then the calm broke. From the black of space, shadows grew, long and sharp. One by one, human ships slipped from faster than light travel. They appeared in formation, their metal hulls dark, their engines glowing with steady fire. The fleet had arrived. The first alien sensors screamed alarms. Screens lit red. Officers shouted in panic. "Ships incoming. Human warships. Too many to count." In orbit, human vessels formed a wall of steel. Carriers, destroyers, and heavy cruisers lined the void. Their design was simple, built for purpose rather than beauty. They were not curved or graceful like the ships of other races. They were blunt, sharp, and strong, built by a people who valued survival over elegance. The raider fleet rushed to meet them, engines roaring, weapons armed. Their ships spread across the orbit like a swarm of blades. Var himself watched from the command deck of his flagship, his mouth twisted in a smile. "So they came," he said. "Good. We will crush them in the skies, and the galaxy will see their weakness." But the humans did not rush. Their fleet held formation, silent and unmoving, like a wall that could not be shaken. No taunts came from their channels, no threats, no insults. Only silence. And that silence weighed heavier than any roar. The children in the tower felt the ground tremble as the alarms rang. They looked through the bars of their cages and saw the sky outside flash with streaks of fire. One boy pressed his hand against the cold metal and whispered, "They are here. I told you they would come." The younger ones looked to him with hope. Their fear began to fade. They could not see the ships themselves, but they felt the presence of their people in the air. In orbit, the first clash began. Alien ships opened fire, streams of energy burning through the void. But the humans answered with precision. Missiles and beams cut through the darkness, tearing holes in the swarm of raider craft. Human ships moved with discipline, every formation exact, every strike measured. The raiders fought with rage, rushing in wild attacks. They struck hard, but their chaos met the steady wall of human steel. One by one, their ships burned. Explosions lit the night above the planet, fire blooming like stars being born and dying at once. On the human flagship, the commander stood tall at the bridge. His voice was calm as he gave orders. "Hold formation. Protect the carriers. Do not break rank." His officers moved with swift hands, their faces steady. They had trained for this. They had prepared for this. The raiders sent desperate calls to their leader. "They do not fall. They do not break. We cannot push them back." Var slammed his fist against the console. "Fight harder. Fight with all your strength. Do not show weakness." But strength without unity was nothing. His fleet continued to shatter against the human wall. Down on the planet, citizens of the raiders looked up and saw the sky aflame. For the first time, fear filled their hearts. They had always believed their warriors unbeatable, their towers unshakable. Now, above their heads, their fleet was breaking apart. The children in the cages heard the thunder of battle. Some covered their ears, but others smiled for the first time since their capture. Hope burned in their eyes. On the flagship, the human commander looked at the fading enemy ships. He raised his hand and gave the order that would echo across the stars. "Prepare ground forces. We take them back. No child is left behind." Dropships roared from the human carriers, cutting through the atmosphere like falling stars. They burned across the sky, their hulls glowing as they pierced the clouds. The raiders on the ground shouted in panic, running to their weapons, but already the humans were coming. The wall in space had held. Now the storm was falling upon the world itself. The sky of the raider world was torn by fire. Human dropships cut through the clouds, their engines burning bright. They fell like iron meteors, carrying soldiers ready to land. The ground below shook as alarms rang through the alien city. The raiders rushed to their weapons, shouting orders, their hearts caught between pride and fear. Inside the tall black tower, the children pressed close to the bars of their cages. They could hear the rumble from above, the thunder of engines, the sharp echoes of weapons. Hope stirred in their hearts, but fear lingered too. They did not know if the humans would reach them in time. On the surface, the first dropships touched down. Their doors opened wide, and human soldiers poured out in steady lines. Their armor was heavy, their steps strong, their rifles held firm. They did not shout, they did not boast. They moved with the calm of duty. The raiders charged at them, blades raised, weapons firing. But the humans did not break. They formed lines, shields raised, and fired with sharp precision. Every shot was measured, every strike aimed with care. Raider after raider fell, their wild rage unable to pierce the steady wall of human steel. At the front of the squad, a captain raised his hand. "Advance," he said, and the soldiers moved forward. Step by step, street by street, they cut through the city. Their eyes were fixed on the tower. That was their goal. That was where the children waited. The raiders fought fiercely, but fear grew among them. For every soldier that fell, 2 more humans pressed on. The humans did not tire, did not waver. Their duty was heavier than any weapon the raiders carried. The children in the tower could now see flashes of fire through the windows. They heard the roar of battle growing closer. One of the older boys gripped the bars and whispered, "They are coming for us. Hold on." Var, the alien leader, stood at the top of the tower with his guards. His pride began to shake as he saw the human advance. He had mocked the stories, had laughed at the warnings, but now the truth stood before him. His fleet in the sky was broken. His soldiers on the ground were falling. And the humans were not stopping. The tower doors shook as the first human squads reached them. Explosives were set, charges planted. With a thunderous blast, the doors fell inward, and the soldiers stormed inside. Their rifles lit the halls, their boots pounded on the stone floors. Room by room, hall by hall, they cleared the tower. The children heard the echo of boots drawing closer. At first, fear gripped them, thinking the raiders were returning. But then they saw them, figures in strong armor, helmets shining, rifles steady. One of the soldiers lowered his weapon and knelt before the cages. His voice was calm, steady, but filled with warmth. "You are safe now. We are here." The children's eyes filled with tears, but their fear broke into relief. The soldier placed a device against the cage, and with a sharp crack, the lock fell away. The door swung open. The first child stepped out, then another, then all of them rushed forward. The soldiers knelt to meet them, guiding them gently, lifting the smallest ones into their arms. There was no rush, no harsh command, only care. The children clung to their rescuers, their faces pressed against armor that felt like walls of safety. One of the younger girls whispered, "I knew you would come." The soldier carrying her nodded. "We always come. No one is left behind." As the last cage was broken, the captain gave his order. "Form a shield around them. Prepare for extraction." His voice was firm, his eyes never leaving the children. For him and his men, no treasure in the galaxy was greater than this. Var and his guards tried to rally for one final stand at the top of the tower. But when the humans reached them, they did not fight with wild fury. They fought with quiet resolve. Blades and fire clashed, but the outcome was never in doubt. Var fell, his pride broken as his tower shook under the weight of defeat. With the leader gone, the raiders scattered. Some fled into the night, others dropped their weapons in surrender. The storm had broken them. The soldiers formed a circle around the children as they moved back through the halls. Every step was guarded, every corner cleared. Outside, dropships landed once more, engines roaring. The humans guided the children aboard, shielding them with their own bodies as fire rained from the desperate raiders who still resisted. But no strike touched the children. The wall of human steel held firm. Inside the dropship, the children sat close to their rescuers. Some leaned against armored shoulders, eyes closing in exhaustion. Others watched the windows, where the black towers of their prison grew smaller in the distance. As the dropships lifted into the sky, the human fleet opened its ranks to welcome them back. Ships moved aside, creating a path for the rescued young. The stars stretched before them, free and endless. The captain looked at the children and then at his soldiers. His voice was quiet, but strong enough for all to hear. The chains are broken. They are ours again. The children smiled, their fear gone at last. In their eyes, the fire of hope burned brighter than ever. The black towers of the raider city lay broken beneath the sky. Smoke rose in thin columns, drifting across the red plains. Fires still burned in scattered streets, but the human soldiers had the children safe in their arms. Their mission was complete, yet the task was not over. The human commander knew the galaxy must learn a lesson. He stood at the top of a captured fortress, the wind tugging at his uniform. Below him, alien soldiers were held in careful restraint. Their pride was shattered, their fleet destroyed, and their leaders gone. Yet they looked at him with defiance, believing perhaps their cunning could save them. The commander spoke slowly, his voice clear and steady. You have committed a grave crime. You caged human children, thinking it would give you power. You have not only failed yourselves, but you have brought doom upon your people. The galaxy will remember this day. The alien captors shifted uneasily. Some looked away, ashamed. Others remained rigid, refusing to bow. But the commander's calm presence was stronger than their anger. Every soldier at his side formed a protective line around the rescued children, their rifles ready, their eyes sharp. You believed humans were weak, the commander continued. You believed our children could be used as trophies. You were wrong. Every world will now know what happens when human young are threatened. You will not forget it, and you will teach it to your children. This is the law of the stars now. The aliens whispered among themselves, fear creeping into their voices. They had fought humans before, yet the stories always seemed distant. Now the truth stood before them. Humans did not seek revenge for pride or wealth. They acted for duty, for care, for love. And duty never wavered. The commander gestured to the children. They stood together, some holding hands, some looking at the humans who saved them with wide eyes full of trust. These are the future of our people, he said. They are small, yet they carry the strength of humanity. Every life you harmed was a spark that could have been extinguished, but instead, it became a flame. Remember this. Outside, the sky was alive with ships. The human fleet had held orbit, watching, protecting, ready for any threat. Some aliens who had tried to flee earlier returned, trembling at the sight of the organized armada. There was no escape. The humans did not shout or rage. Their presence alone was enough to show their power. The commander's eyes swept across the remaining leaders of the raiders. Your empire is not gone, yet. But if this ever happens again, there will be no warning. Every fleet, every base, every tower under your command will be taken down. You have been given a chance to change. Do not test it again. The leader of the raiders, a tall figure with ridged gray skin, fell to his knees. His armor was scorched, and his pride was broken. He looked at the commander with fear and respect. We did not know," he stammered. "We did not know humans would come so swiftly." The commander nodded. "You should have known. Legends are built for a reason. The galaxy has always warned you. You ignored it? Now you have seen the truth." The children watched quietly. Some of them still held small toys or keepsakes from their cages. They saw the humans who fought for them not as warriors, but as guardians. They understood that strength was not just power, but the willingness to protect those who could not protect themselves. Soldiers moved carefully through the city, disarming traps, ensuring no harm came to any of the children. Each action was precise. Every human knew their mission was not just to fight, but to safeguard the young. Even the smallest one could feel the discipline, the care, the resolve that made humans a force unlike any other. The commander raised his hand once more. The galaxy must remember this. Every species must know what happens when humans are challenged in matters of family and duty. Take your lesson. Teach it. Live it. And never again will you test our patience in this way. For a long moment, silence filled the broken city. The alien soldiers were quiet, their leaders bowed. The children clung to their rescuers, feeling the safety that had been promised and delivered. Then, slowly, the human soldiers began to prepare for departure. Dropships descended once more, engines roaring as they lifted the children and their guardians into the sky. The fleet formed around them, shielding them as they rose above the red world. As the planet shrank beneath them, the commander looked at the children in the front of the dropship. He smiled gently, a rare moment of softness in the midst of war. "You are safe now," he said. "We will bring you home." The lesson had been given. The captors had been shown the consequence of their actions. And the galaxy, watching from distant stars, would remember the day humans rescued their children and delivered justice without cruelty, with only duty and resolve. The human fleet moved steadily through the dark of space. Behind them, the raider world shrank into the distance, a scarred planet marked by defeat. The children, safe at last, sat quietly in the dropships. Some leaned against their rescuers, eyes wide with wonder and relief. Others whispered softly to each other, sharing stories of courage and hope. On the bridge of the flagship, the commander watched the stars ahead. His hands rested on the railing, calm and firm. "We bring them home," he said, though no one doubted it. Every human aboard the fleet knew that the mission had been more than a rescue. It had been a message. A message that would echo across the galaxy for generations. Across alien worlds, the news spread faster than any signal could carry. Traders in distant spaceports stopped their work, staring at screens that displayed reports from human fleets. Soldiers in foreign armies whispered to each other, recalling the old legends of human fury. Councils of rulers gathered urgently, debating in low voices about what they had seen and what must come next. The story of the rescued children was simple, yet powerful. Humans did not seek revenge for pride, nor did they desire conquest. They had acted to protect their own, and in doing so, they reminded the galaxy of an undeniable truth. Humans were strong, not just in battle, but in purpose, in care, and in unity. In the neutral worlds, beings of many kinds shared the tale. Some looked with awe, some with fear, and some with respect. Every species understood the lesson: to harm human children was to invite consequences that no empire could ignore. Back aboard the flagship, the commander addressed his crew. Today we have done more than rescue our young. We have reminded the galaxy what it means to be human. Remember this day. Remember why we fight, and why we protect. This is the strength of our people. The crew nodded, their eyes steady. Every soldier, pilot, and medic understood the weight of his words. They had acted not for glory, not for medals, but for duty. And in that duty, they had shown the truth of humanity. When humans rise to defend their own, no force can stand against them. The children, sensing the calm around them, began to relax. Some pointed to the stars outside the windows, imagining the worlds they would return to. Others held hands, feeling the steady presence of the humans who had risked everything to save them. In that moment, fear was replaced with hope, and hope burned brightly. On the Raider homeworld, the captured leaders began to spread the story of what had happened. Their cities were broken, their fleets destroyed, and their pride shattered. They whispered to one another of the humans' discipline, their strategy, and their unshakable will. Fear replaced arrogance. They would teach their children the lesson learned on that red world. In far-off systems, alien races began to adjust their plans. Traders rerouted their ships, armies revised their strategies, and governments issued warnings. The galaxy had seen the consequence of underestimating humans. No longer could anyone believe that humans were soft or weak. The legend had been proven true once more. The human fleet continued its journey home. The children, now safe and smiling, felt the warmth of belonging and protection. Their eyes shone with the knowledge that their people would always come for them, no matter the distance, no matter the danger. The commander stood again on the bridge, watching the endless stars. Every world will remember today, he said softly. Not because we wanted to scare them, but because they must know what it means to challenge humanity. The ships of Earth moved as one, a silent river of strength through the void. Every soldier, pilot, and crew member carried the knowledge that they had done more than rescue children. They had delivered a message that could not be forgotten: humans protect their own, and when they rise, the galaxy listens. Finally, Earth appeared in the distance, a blue and green jewel in the darkness. Families waited on the surface, hearts pounding, eyes turned to the sky. The fleet entered orbit, and the children were carefully guided to safety. Cheers rose across the landing sites as young voices met those who had risked everything to bring them home. The story spread quickly. Every world, every system that had witnessed or heard of the events knew the truth. Humanity had acted with courage, strength, and care. The outcry of the galaxy was not of anger at humans, but of respect, fear, and awe. In the quiet of space, the commander allowed himself a small smile. The mission was complete. The children were safe. The galaxy had learned the lesson, and the flame of humanity burned brighter than ever. The children looked up at the stars, remembering the journey they had survived. They would grow knowing the truth: humans protect their own, and no matter how far or dangerous the path, they always return.